Okay, good evening to all the participants. This is our third Zoom class on ethics, GS4 paper of UPSC. In last class, we have given some questions and case studies for which I told that model answers will be giving today. Before we go to that, I just want to tell you that I have already started posting daily one model answer on YouTube channel, one model answer for theoretical question or case study on YouTube channel, and along with the various ethical theories also which are applicable both on case studies as well as on uh, theoretical questions also. So there also you can see if you are interested. Uh, I don't know how many of you who are participating in the ethics class uh, are a student with philosophy optional, because I am taking philosophy optional classes also on Saturday from 9 to 10:30, depending on how long the session is. And there is a group, WhatsApp group, Telegram group, and YouTube channel also for philosophy optional, where we are putting PDF material as well as Zoom class videos and other uh, content also. In philosophy optional also, I'm going to start daily one model answer of a probable question. And my target for philosophy optional also, just like ethics, is that by October end, I will be able to cover about 100 each questions for both paper one and paper two. So if you are interested, or if you are a student of philosophy optional, you can anyway look into that. Or if your friends are there, they also can look into that. So now we'll start with today's session. Uh, the first I have to give you the model answer. But before we start the model answer, let us see once again the answer writing tips, particularly how answer is, I mean, what kind of answer can be considered as a good answer. So let us first understand that, and then we will go to, first briefly we'll understand this, and then we will go to model answers for the last week's question. So see, I mean, this I explained earlier also in one of the classes, and this also I have put on YouTube channel, this video also for answer writing tips. And this is very important because our answers have to be examined on these parameters, whether these parameters are present in those answers or not, so that good marks can be fetched. And one more thing you might have noted, the topper of this year, she has scored highest, one of the highest marks in ethics paper. I think it's about 141 out of 250. So definitely, and this is highest of all the GS papers she has got. What I want to say is, sometimes this ethics paper itself can be a paper which can make or mar your chance for getting into the list. So this is very important paper. If she has got 141, others also can get. And uh, I'm sure if you target for 60%, definitely 50-55% you can get. And even if you get 55, 57, 58%, that is quite good marks as far as civil service exam is concerned. So, uh, see, the first point in answer writing is uh, anchor your answers in ethical framework. Now, ethical frameworks, as I told earlier, also there are about uh, 27 to 30 such theories of different kinds, which are which can be quoted in theory answers as well as in case studies also. And this we will see today also, whatever model answers I am giving, and other model answers also which I am putting on YouTube channel, as well as last week also I gave, and subsequent weeks also we will see that this parameter has to be fulfilled. So you have to quote correct ethical framework or ethical theory or ethical idea. Now, it can be Kantian ethics, deontology. It can be consequentialism, that is utilitarianism. It can be virtue ethics of Aristotle, or it can be Indian ethical theories from Buddhism, from Jainism, from Gandhi, from Gita, from Ambedkar, etc. Then you have to mention the keywords, ethically important keywords. In fact, I keep on telling for philosophy students also, and for ethics students also, and for that matter, all subjects or GS also, you have to have a list of keywords and key phrases. Now, the list, can be of 100 words or 200 words, depending on how much you study and what is your depth of study. But definitely, you should have 100, 150 words, which are keywords and key phrases, which you should understand what is its meaning, and you can use it wherever required, wherever applicable. So, for example, here integrity, objectivity, compassion, empathy, justice, probity, neutrality, these are the words, basically phrases. In subsequent points, we will see how the phrases are also used. Now, structure of answer is also important. First is introduction. Now, introduction doesn't mean that you start some historical thing about the topic, because number of words in ethics are very, very less. So, word constraint is very, very important. And if 150 words, if you waste 20, 30 words for introduction only, so your answer is gone. So introduction here doesn't mean that you start from historic or prehistoric times for that topic. You have to give definition, you have to give interpretation, and start from that itself. Now, then second is you have to describe various dimensions of that topic or that idea or that theory which has been asked. So you have to break that in multiple aspects. And then third is ethical analysis. In fact, first point, if you see, first point, that is anchor your answer in ethical framework, and this third point, ethical, are same. So this we are discussing in structure, and this is general point. So you have to apply various ethical principles or ethical theories, whichever applicable. Now, definitely all theories will not be applicable, depending on which theory is applicable, which theory is not applicable, that you have to decide. Then you have to quote various examples, application and examples. This is again very, very important. This is important for case studies and as well as theoretical questions also. So application and examples are also must as far as the ethics paper is concerned, because ethics paper is not in a way theoretical, it's more or less a practical paper. It should give you a practical uh, feel while you are writing or answer. Your answer should give a practical feel to the examiner. So examples you have to quote, and then logical conclusion. There has to be a conclusion. That, and conclusion has to be, last time also I told, it has to be positive. It has to be forward looking. It has to be futuristic. It has to be optimistic. You cannot conclude in a very pessimistic or negative manner. So that this is very important. So if you make, if you have this structure, definitely you are going to score good marks. And we will see also how you can answer various questions in following this structure. Now, definition or context introduction. This is introduction is a little described again. Now start with short, crisp definition. Add a contextual sentence linking it to public administration or daily administration or daily ethical dilemma. So you have to start with a definition, but then in subsequent line or the next one or two lines, you have to link it to, what a civil servant does basically. What is the duty of civil servant, or how it is implemented in public administration. So this is again very important. So here itself, you have to, your definition should be linked with some practical aspect of civil servant. For example, now one example also is quoted here. I will just read it because we'll see also when we see model answers how this is applied. For example, empathy. Empathy, suppose a question comes to define empathy, and then subsequently some other parts are there. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feeling of others in public administration. Now see, in second line itself, it is being linked to public administration. In public administration, it enables civil servants to frame policies more attuned to the needs of marginalized section. And here you are making use of this or marginalized sections, which will show that you are pro-poor, you are having some, basically you are a virtuous person, you are basically implementing the schemes with following the principles of virtue ethics. So this also is very important. Then again, it is being stressed, incorporate thinkers' views also. See, on the one hand, you have to incorporate various ethical theories. On the other hand, you have to incorporate various thinkers' views. Thinkers' views can be Western thinkers or can be Indian thinkers, depending on the need and necessity. And I stress on this point that please do quote Indian thinkers also, because they are contextually and culturally and regionally more relevant than Western thinkers. Western thinkers, anyway, you have to quote because they are very prominent thinkers and they are given very prominent theories. But you cannot forget Indian thinkers. So please ensure that Indian thinkers are also simultaneously quoted in the your answer. So, for example, Western thinkers, Kant, Bentham, Mill, Aristotle, Rawls, etc. Indian thinkers, Gandhi, Buddha, Chanakya, Vivekananda, Ambedkar, Gita, all these things. And the third thing is you have to quote certain relevant reports, administrative reports. For example, a Nolan Committee report of UK, then second ARC report of India itself. So this also is very important because these reports have, are very relevant as far as uh, ethics in administration is concerned. So this also is important. So then next point is diagrams, flowcharts, and tables. Now I know in less number of words, it's very difficult to infuse diagrams, flowcharts, and tables. So it's not a must thing. But if suppose distinguish between is there or some table you can form or some flowchart, for example, some showing some ethical dilemma or some decision-making process or comparing various ethical theories. If you can do it, do it. Otherwise, you need not worry about that because then you have to make your answer visible by bullet points or by underlining or by uh, making. You have to have different ways of attracting the examiner's attention to your answer. But this is one, and if possible, I'm sure some places it may be possible, very rare, but because number of words are very less, so we should not risk wasting our time. So please, but this is important. This can fetch you better marks. Then last time also I told balanced argument that don't include your personal preconceived notions or personal feelings, etc. You have to have balanced argument. You have to have a positive kind of argument. You have to tell about both pros and cons of theories. You have to, if you say one theory, ethical theory, it says something, then there is another ethical theory also. It may contradict also. It may be negative also. It may be. So basically, all those things, both sides of the argument, you have to both sides of. Please remember that. Then already it has been said, examples are very crucial. Examples obviously will be mostly from Indian scenario. It may be bureaucrats, it may be various administrators, it may be historical figures, it may be uh, present existing figures. So depending on what is, but last time also I told, please don't give any controversial name in this because if you feel that this some name is universally accepted, then only you should quote. Because controversial name, if you give and if examiner doesn't like that or there is some difference of opinion, you may suffer for that. So this is again very important. Then theoretical questions. Already this has been discussed. This is only repetition, so I'm not going into that. Now this is basically case study. There are six step case study or 5 steps here. So this also is simple. I think last time also we told, I have put a video also on that. So you can go through this very simple thing, how to analyze a case study and how to suggest a course of appropriate course of action. Avoid over philosophizing. This is very important because this is a practical paper. This is ethics paper. This is not a philosophy paper. I keep on telling philosophy is optional. Students also don't impose your philosophy in ethics paper. Ethics paper is in a way practical paper. It has to be in a simple, straightforward way. You have to explain the thing. So this is important. Now, language of ethics, it has to be ethically sensitive, and this means that same number of phrases and words if you are having in your notebook, and if you remember that earlier page, some number of some few word examples were there. Now this phrases example, for example, fostering trust in governance, ensuring equitable justice, prioritizing the most vulnerable, demonstrating moral courage despite adverse circumstances, upholding public trust, duty-bound approach, promoting common good, demonstrating account, and so many other phrases can be there. So please do have a list of these, and then uh, you remember that and use also in your answers. This will be very important. Now, conclusion, as I already told, it has to be positive, it has to be optimistic, it has to be futuristic, it should radiate hope, it should reflect constitutional values, it should reflect ethical values. So all these things have to be there in your conclusion. It cannot be a negative and illegal or some other conclusion you cannot give. So this is what is basically tips for answer writing. Now we'll come to model answers for last week questions. Now let us see what are the questions and how. See, this was first question last week. It was given. What do you understand by the term ethical sensitivity? What is ethical sensitivity? Why ethical sensitivity is considered foundational to ethical decision making? So this is the question. Now, obviously, what do you understand by ethical sensitivity means? You have to define it, and you have to see that it is linked to some uh, uh, public, and then some quotations also, some quotes and some philosophers, and all those things we have to do. So I will read it just to make you understand how things are. How just now we have whatever we have explained as a model or the answer writing tips, how it has been used here. See, ethical sensitivity refers to the ability to perceive the ethical dimension of a situation and understand the impact of one section on others. It encompasses sympathy, perspective taking, and moral imagination. Now, up to here, this is a definition. Now, this is a philosopher's quote. James Rest, he's a modern philosopher. He has given 4-component model, places ethical sensitivity as the foundational step in ethical behavior. Then another modern philosopher has been quoted, Carol Gilligan's Ethics of Care. Further highlights the importance of relational awareness and contextual responsiveness in moral reasoning. So this whole paragraph is basically what do you understand by the ethical sensitivity. So this explains the first part of the question. Now we'll go to second part. This contains example from 2 philosophers, modern philosophers. Now we'll go to second part. In public life, so you see why is ethical sensitivity considered foundational to ethical decision making in public life? So you have to always focus your answer word to word towards the question, main question. You cannot beat around the bush. You cannot talk something else. If whatever is asked, leaving that, you cannot talk something else. So on decision making, ethical decision making in public life, how it impacts. So then the second part of the question starts with that sentence itself. In public life, ethical sensitivity is crucial for discerning the ethical nuances in policy implementation, administrative discretion, and citizen interactions. Without it, decisions may be technically sound but ethically hollow. So this is what in public life or in a bureaucrat's life, ethical sensitivity is important. Now, then again, example and quote from Mahatma Gandhi. For instance, Mahatma Gandhi's emphatic response to system injustice through non-violent civil disobedience reflected profound ethical sensitivity. So this kind of example, you are quoting a historical example, but this somehow it will reflect how ethical sensitivity is important in public life. Now, then again, you are quoting some other constitution and the reports also. This quality enables civil servant, that is ethical sensitivity. This quality means ethical sensitivity enables civil servants to uphold constitutional values like justice, dignity, and equality. As I told earlier, our Indian constitution preamble is very, very important. Fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and directive principles of state policy. All these chapters have number of articles which are ethically loaded. And those articles, I mean, if required, you can quote those articles. Otherwise, at least you have to mention what are the values mentioned in that constitution. Then it also echoes second administrative reforms commission's stress on emotional intelligence and citizen-centric governance, fostering trust, accountability, and inclusive public service. So basically, now you are quoting constitution as well as second administrative reforms report also, and you are using certain phrases and words which are ethical in nature, which give you a positive framework to the answer. You are concluding with a positive approach. So this is what first question looks like, our first model answer. Now let us go to second. Explain the interplay of free will, intention, and consequence in determining the ethicality of an action. How does this understanding help in making ethically sound decisions in public administration? Again, this question has 2 parts. So first part, you have to explain how interplay of these 3 things, will, intention, and consequence in determining the ethicality of action. So let us address first part first. The ethicality of an action is determined by interplay of free will, intention, and consequence. Free will, as discussed by philosophers like Sartre. Sartre was an existential philosopher. Underpins moral responsibility only. What is free will? I mean, let me tell you a little. See, free will is if you are able to do something voluntarily, then only morality or ethicality can be ascribed to you. Because if I am doing something under command of somebody or under instructions of somebody or under control of somebody, definitely the ethical or moral responsibility will not lie with me. So free will means a bureaucrat or a person, if he's freely doing something, then only moral responsibility or his moral responsibility will be there for the act. So this is free will. Free will discussed by Sartre underpins moral responsibility. Only voluntary actions can be judged ethically. Same thing what I have explained. Only voluntary actions of a human being can be judged ethically. As simple as that. Intention is central. Now, what is intention? Intention is central to Immanuel Kant's deontological ethics. Intention means what is I mean, what is your objective? What you think of doing? This is intention. Where the moral worth of an action lies in acting from a sense of duty and goodwill, regardless of outcomes. So this is Immanuel Kant you are quoting, Sartre you are quoting, and now you are coming to third. Consequence is the focus of utilitarianism. I mean, consequentialist theory and utilitarian are same, one are same. In fact, consequentialism basically is a broader term. Utilitarianism, the important theories of consequentialism. So, I mean, but sometimes it is used interchangeably also. So, consequence is the focus of utilitarianism, particularly in the works of Bentham and Mill. Now, again, you are quoting Bentham and Mill, where an action's righteousness depends on the greatest good it produces. So you see here you have quoted three kinds of philosophers. One, Sartre, then Kant's deontology ethics, and then utilitarianism of Mill and Bentham. And here you have explained in first part of the question. Now, second part will be how does this understanding help in making ethically sound decisions in public administration? Now, let us see. An ethically sound action in public administration ideally involves all three. What all three? That is free will, intent, and consequence. Now you are giving example of Sridharan. So similarly, you can give other examples also. Here it's quoted Sridharan. Now this framework, that is the involvement of all the three qualities, fosters accountable, empathetic, and just decision making aligned with constitutional morality and citizen-centric governance, as emphasized in the second Administrative Reforms Commission. So, see, you are quoting the document also, you are quoting constitutional morality also, and you are giving example as well as you are using ethical words and phrases. So, therefore, these kind of answers definitely will be able to fetch at least 55 to 60% marks, depending on how well you have written. Now, we'll go to case study because two case studies were also given. So first case study is you are posted as district collector in a flood affected region. While supervising the relief distribution, you find that a reputed NGO is is colluding with local officials to siphon off aid materials, exposing them, could delay immediate relief and create media controversy during humanitarian crisis. On the other hand, overlooking this issue might normalize corruption under duress. Do you expose the corruption at the cost of relief operations and potential backlash, or prioritize immediate delivery and address? Now, here basically the dilemma is either you continue with humanitarian relief or compromise the integrity. Because already corruption has been noticed and there is collusion has been noticed. So all those things are there. Basically the first paragraph says the same thing. Who are the stakeholders and what is the conflict? For example, humanitarian relief and institutional integrity has to be safeguarded. Here, what theories will be used? So now first deontological perspective. Immanuel Kant was the philosopher who has given the deontological, which is duty bound, basically duty bound ethics. So what he says, now irrespective of the consequence, you don't do anything wrong. So this is what Kant has said. Irrespective of any consequence, what result it gives, you don't do wrong. So therefore, you expose that corruption, whether the distribution stops or whether the flood relief is jeopardized, doesn't matter, but you have to do ethically correct thing only. Now, second theory is consequentialism, which is given by Bentham and Mill, that is called utilitarianism. And here, now both may differ because, see, Kant's theory justifies basically means as well as ends. Means also have to be ethically correct and end also has to be ethically correct. Utilitarianism justifies end only has to be correct. That the consequence only should be correct. Means may be sometimes wrong also, sometimes maybe not ethically sound. So this is the difference between these two theories. Here we should understand like that. So Bentham and Mill emphasize on maximization of well-being, supporting uninterrupted relief efforts. Now, see, both are ethically sound, but then uh, in my opinion, neither of them, both will not serve much purpose, because if you stop everything, then also there is a problem, and if you continue like that, then also there will be a problem. So you have to find out some via media. You have to find out some a solution which is basically outside the purview of these two theories. And what is the solution? Now some steps needs to be taken as an administrator, as a district collector should take. For example, ensure uninterrupted relief. So you cannot stop the relief. So because in floods, etc., I don't know whether you are aware, because I have faced so many times these kind of situations, and there even you will not have even breathing space. So you simply, if you stop the flood relief, you will have a lot of backlash, not only from political side but also from people's side, from press, media, and everything, and then it will be very big issue. So you have to ensure uninterrupted relief. So what you have to do? Reassign the distribution to neutral entities. You have to find out immediately neutral entities. Self-help groups may be there, some volunteers may be there, Red Cross may be there, which may be useful. Then CRPF personnel may be there. So these kind of neutral persons have to be, our groups have to be identified, and then uh, you have to have some digital monitoring kind of thing. Nowadays, I mean, almost every important vehicle is GPS monitored. So GPS monitored, then biometric verification is there, Aadhaar verification is there, authentication is there, real-time dashboards are there. So all these things you can use for proper monitoring, so that relief is not siphoned off. Relief is, in fact, it should have been done before starting the relief itself. You can ask why then this problem comes. But sometimes in haste or sometimes in pressure of work, you are not able to take the precautions before starting the work. So therefore, this problem comes. So here you have to take all these precautions. Now, what should be second step? Secure evidence confidentially. Collect video, inventory logs, and witness testimonies without alarming the public. Leverage whistleblower mechanism. There is a whistleblower act also, and third party audits. So basically, you have to, basically get the evidence of whatever corruption is going on or whatever collusion has occurred. You have to obtain the evidence. Now, third, initiate silent internal inquiries. Why silent? Because if you start publicizing, your other efforts also will go waste. Your a lot of media, public approval, and other things will be there, and your other efforts will go waste. So this is, at the time of distribution, it's not right time to create the controversy. You have to first collect the evidence, then uh, go ahead with the inquiry. Then third is, after whole thing is stabilized, then you be strict, and then what you have to do, file FIRs, blacklist the NGO, suspend the complicit officials, and take further whatever necessary action is there. So basically, if these four steps you follow, you are doing correct thing at correct time. You are not simply confusing that some theory or some ethical theory, because see, again, even though there are 27 ethical theories, but the ethical theories will not tell you in many situations what is the correct way of handling the situation. Because here also we see there are two ethical theories we have applied, but both are telling only partial thing. So you have to find a via media, you have to find combine both, and then you have to find out your own solution so that you don't do anything wrong also, and you don't stop any welfare activity also. So this is, then you can quote Ambedkar, then you can quote constitutional morality, Nolan principles, Kautilya, Gandhiji, because Gandhi is doctor and ethical means towards ethical ends. So this is what Kant also told. This is what Gandhiji also told. I mean, your end also is equally important. Your means are also equally important. So this is what. So in basically, this is what the solution of this case study is. And other things you can read it anyway. I will be putting this in groups also, so you can read it. But now we'll go to second case study. You are a part of a confidential task force overseeing India's AI-based surveillance program. During an internal audit, you discover that software used is illegally collecting data from private citizens. Now, this is again a important violation, basically, of uh, private privacy of citizens. Without consent, the project has national security implications, and disclosing the breach could uh, derail diplomatic partnership and ongoing reforms. Do you raise the alarm about mass surveillance at the risk of detailing national interest and violating your secrecy oath, or remain silent and comply with officials? Now here again, uh, uh, the what is ethical dilemma? The On the one hand, right to privacy is there. On the other hand, you are, I mean, this is very important project, security project basically, and there is oath of secrecy, there diplomatic partnership, and all those things are there. So neither you can stop and nor you can allow. So this is particularly ethical dilemma. In fact, uh, you might remember the Kidder's dilemma paradigms, that usually the ethical questions are right versus right. So I mean, you cannot simply stop one thing for the other. So here also same thing is there. So here, the reasoning is first, let us say, consequential reasoning, which emphasizes collective security, and deontological ethics, that is Kant's imperative that individual be treated as end in themselves. This is Kant's uh, uh, categorical imperative that individual should be treated as an end, which is a part of deontological ethics. And consequential reasoning is, uh, definitely you have to complete the project of collective security. Now, it also raises the question of constitutional morality, as emphasized by B.R. Ambedkar. So this also we need to mention that fidelity not merely to procedural legality, but to spirit of liberty, dignity, and accountability embedded in the Constitution. So you cannot compromise the liberty or dignity or accountability. So this is again constitutional values, constitutional morality. Then what will be the result again? So again here 2, 3, 4 steps are given, and let us understand what are those steps. First thing, institutional escalation of integrity. So in a bureaucracy, what is there is, if you notice something without disrupting the procedure or the process which is going on, you have channels for complaining the thing, or at least making the whole thing to escalate. So for example, like here national level issue is there. So therefore, there is a cabinet secretary, there is security council, there is a uh, cyber security cell, there is a ministry of IT. So all these uh, national level institutions, you can make a complaint, and you can ask for urging immediate review while remaining within the bounds of official secrecy, because you cannot go to the press just like that and say that this is happening, and therefore this whole thing is skewed or should not be done, and all those things. So you have to find a solution which is not only ethically correct, but it is within the official secrecy and the bureaucratic channels also. There is different, you can say, levels of the channel. So if at lower level something wrong is happening, you have noticed, then you have to report to higher level, obtain their instructions, and you have to basically inform everything, and then say, this is not correct. So what are your instructions and how to proceed? And this is my suggestion. So basically, you have to escalate it to higher officials or higher institution. Now, second is judicial and ethical oversight. You can also recommend to various authorities for an independent audit led by, let us say, some Supreme Court or High Court judge to evaluate the compliance with Puttaswamy verdict and digital personal data protection. These two are basically related to digital personal data protection and personal liberty, basically. So, therefore, if some Supreme Court cases are also there, which you can mention, constitutional sections also, articles also you can mention, that also will be useful. So the audit must apply principles from OECD guidelines on AI and meet is Ministry of Information Technology of Government of India, responsible AI framework. So from these documents, some guidelines are there, and this can be applied here. Now, third is systemic reform. Advocate for embedded privacy by design architecture, algorithmic accountability, and transparent redress mechanisms to strengthen data ethics infrastructure through a statutory data ethics commission. So this also can be another recommendation. And fourth is avoid premature public disclosure. As Thomas Hobbes warned, peace and order are fragile. Disclosure must only be after due institutional remedies fail. Now, see, if all these remedies, whatever first three remedies are being suggested, all fail, then what you will do? Then definitely, as a last resort, you have to go for disclosure. So now civil disobedience is moral only when institutions fail completely, as Gandhi demonstrated. So again, Gandhi can be quoted here. So this approach basically preserves both national interest and individual dignity. Uh, it also Kautilya's Raj Dharma. So basically, here again, four options, four steps are given, and neither of the ethical theories is fully applicable here. So we have quoted ethical theories, we have quoted various Indian examples, Indian philosophers, then Western philosophers. So all these things are contained in these answers. Now, this completes last week's answer. Now, quickly we will go to first topic of ethics paper. In fact, last week only I wanted to cover, but due to paucity of time, I could not cover. So now let us go to that first topic, that is called ethics and human interface. Now, this is first topic of the ethics paper. Now, here basically very briefly I will cover it, because you need to definitely go through detailed notes and the books, etc. Earlier also, in earlier sessions, we have told the books, etc. So you can definitely read that. But here briefly, just I will make you understand what is ethics and how it is related with human interface. So a number of subtopics and sub-subtopics are included in this. So I think 10 to 15 minutes this will take up for this. See, ethics and human interface in a way means a foundation of ethical decision making in public life. So this is what, in essence, the meaning of this. Ethics and human interface means how in public life ethical decision making can be made. What are the foundations of ethical decision making in public life? So first point is essence of ethics. What is ethics basically? What is essence of ethics? So first topic, we will understand essence, determinants, and consequences of ethics in human actions. Essence of ethics is ethics. I mean, all of us already know it, because this is what is right and wrong, and the right thing we need to do, and that is called ethical thing, that is called moral thing, and the right thing is grounded in reason, justice, universality, and human dignity. So this is ethics basically. That any right thing grounded in reason, justice, universality, and human dignity is basically ethics. It I mean, it's not legal. I mean, see, ethical and legal are both are different things. Legal may be sometimes not ethical as well in certain situations. So it transcends merely legal or procedural compliance, because sometimes legal and procedural compliance may not be ethical in that scenario, in that situation. That also we should understand. So this, what is ethical is what ought I to do, what I should do basically, what I should have done, or what I ought to do. So this is what ethics is, particularly when no clear rule exists. For civil servants, ethics is about aligning personal conduct with public interest, particularly in ambiguous and morally gray contexts. See, if there is everything is clear, then there is no dilemma, there is no issue involved. So whatever is right, you do. But when one right, as earlier also in Kidder's dilemma, for example, individual versus community, then short term versus long term. So these kind of dilemmas are there, then what will you do? So that kind of gray areas are there, then your uh, ethical decisions are to be made. Now, what are key thinkers basically? Immanuel Kant, Aristotle, Bhagavad Gita. This we have already read that or elsewhere. So I'm not going into that because Immanuel Kant has advocated deontological theory, categorical imperative, but moral actions are to be done as a duty, must be universally applicable. So all these things. Aristotle has given virtue ethics. Bhagavad Gita says niskam karma. So, for example, one example, let us see. A district magistrate resisting political pressure to transfer an upright officer upholds Kantian duty and Gandhian conscience over expediency. And this situation comes numerous times in any career of any bureaucrat. I have faced numerous times, and definitely it will come for anybody. You will have political pressure, you have to resist that, and you have to say no. We cannot do that because this is not done. So these kind of, here this is a Kantian duty and Gandhian conscience over expediency. Now, what are the determinants of ethical behavior? Let us understand that. Now, determinants can be internal as well as external. Internal as well as external circumstances. What are the internal? Individual level determinants. These are internals to the individual. Now, one is conscience, the internal moral compass. This is called conscience. Gandhiji called it the still small voice within. This kind of quotation is very important. Please note that the still small voice within. This is what Gandhiji's statement regarding conscience, and this is internal moral compass as well as for an individual. Now, moral reasoning, as per this is second internal point, moral reasoning. Lawrence Kohlberg has said that individual progresses from obedience to abstract principle. So this is the statement of Lawrence Kohlberg regarding moral reasoning. Third is emotional intelligence. In fact, emotional intelligence, we have a separate chapter also. That also will come. But emotional intelligence, another philosopher, Daniel Goleman, emphasizes that self-awareness, empathy, and regulation for moral decision making. So this is all these things is done by emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, empathy, and regulation for moral decision making, particularly interrelations, relations between one individual to the public or bureaucrat to the public. This is covered by emotional intelligence. Now, then external determinants are there, socio-cultural determinants. Religion is one, culture is another. Now, religion definitely, for example is given Sikh Seva. These kind of thing inspire altruism, but it may also restrict ethical reasoning if it is rigid. If any religion becomes very rigid, then definitely ethical restrictions come up. Culture, yes, Indian culture is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is one of the good values, universal values. And now, then there are institutional determinants. For example, constitutional provisions are there. Then civil service conduct rules are there for every, all India service conduct rules are there. State services conduct rules are there. So all this codify the expected behavior from the civil servants. Then organizational culture is there. Suppose you join some organization, some bureaucracy, suppose you join some service, let's say revenue service or IAS or IPS, then the culture of that organization is also important. So this is exemplified by Nolan Committee has given 7 principles, which include integrity, objectivity, accountability, etc. So this is again important. Then there are situational determinants. Ethical dilemmas often arise from role conflict or competing loyalties. For example, suppose you are taking some decision and then your family members or relatives are involved there. What you should do? Such kind of case studies also will come. But for example, here one example, a police officer's family member is arrested. Now what he should do? he should definitely recuse himself from that, because then only impartiality will be ensured and public trust will be preserved. So this is what is ethically correct decision. So then another subtopic in this first topic is consequences of ethical and unethical conduct. Now, ethical conduct definitely builds trust in public institutions. Unethical conduct breeds corruption and inefficiency. Ethical conduct enhances delivery of public services. Unethical conduct leads to policy paralysis and demoralization. Ethical conduct inspires moral leadership. This weakens morale of honest officers, then reinforces constitutional values, erodes democratic foundations. Now, again, two examples are given. You can go through that again, Sridharan and Gopal strategy. Now, what are the second subtopic is dimensions of ethics. That is different sections, different kinds of ethics. Now, for example, first is meta ethics. Then second is normative ethics. Then applied ethics, descriptive ethics. These are basically different kinds of ethics, you can say. Now, meta ethics, what it does, analyzes the nature and meaning of ethical terms. This is meta ethics. For example, what is good, what is moral, what is ethical. So this will come in meta ethics. And the philosophers are key contributors are Moore and David Hume. Normative ethics, what normative ethics does, prescribes moral principles to determine what ought to be done. This is what normative ethics does. And the philosophers are Kant, Mill, Aristotle, etc. Then third is applied ethics. What it does, applies ethical principles in real world fields. For example, business, medicine, public policy, etc. So who are the philosophers concerned? Beauchamp and Childress. They have given the theory of bioethics. Then Kautilya, he has given Rajdharma. So this is applied ethics. What is descriptive ethics? Examines how people behave and what they believe about ethics. And the philosophers are Piaget, Kohlberg, and other social scientists. Now, same thing, meta, normative, applied, etc. In Indian ethical framework also, let us understand. For example, meta ethics. Concept of dharma, the moral order of universe, will be covered in meta ethics. Normative ethics, Gita's Nishkam Karma, will be normative ethics. Applied, Kautilya's Arthashastra can be covered in applied ethics. Descriptive, Panchatantra fables can be covered in descriptive ethics. Now, another subtopic is ethics in private and public relationship. See, private relationship based on emotional ties, that is family, prioritizing care, loyalty, support, etc. Now, see, if private relationships become more important, then what can be the risk? Risk will be favoritism, nepotism, etc. will intrude in your administration. Public relationships are basically guided by objectivity, fairness, neutrality, and procedural justice. Role-bound behavior must supersede personal interest. Now, one example we'll understand. A public health officer must refuse preferential treatment to a relative during emergency vaccine distribution. Now, for example, COVID-19, if you remember. So, if these kind of examples, and particularly balancing the two, that is, role of morality requires balancing your personal relations as well as public relations, because you cannot mix it. If you mix it, you are going to be in trouble. So this is third. Now, fourth subtopic of this, human values, learning from leaders and reformers. Human values are intrinsic principles like truth, compassion, justice, and which, I mean, every leader or philosopher gives some learning. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, truth, ahimsa, conscience, and ethical contribution, civil disobedience movement, and all these things. Then Swami Vivekananda, service, strength, spirituality. B.R. Ambedkar, equality, justice, rationality. Abul Kalam, simplicity, integrity, vision. Mother Teresa, compassion, selflessness. Vinoba Bhave, trusteeship, non-possession. So these are various historical examples you can quote in theoretical questions as well as in case studies also. These are very important from that perspective also. And here ethical contribution of all these historical figures are written, so that also you can go through. Now, basically, another thing is role of family, society, and educational institutions in inculcating values. So, for example, family is the first institution for moral development, teaches core values like honesty, empathy, and uh, respect. Then society provides moral frameworks via culture, rituals, traditions, and narratives. Durkheim says morality arises from society's collective conscience. This is what Durkheim, sociologist, he has given this statement. Now, definitely Indian scenario, you will find seva, satyagraha, dharma, etc. It has been carried across generations. Educational institutions, after society comes educational institutions, they impart value education, civic responsibility. Now, John Dewey has told education is life itself. Now, NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020, their ethics and environmental sensitivity is compulsory. You may be knowing already. They are core components of the curriculum, CBSE syllabus. Now, in Lavasana also, ethics classes are held, both theoretical as well as practical classes. So these CBSE and Lavasana, all these things becomes in a way educational institution, and otherwise also indirectly also you learn a lot of this thing in educational institution. Now, for this answer writing tips, I'm not going because this again, same thing will be repeated. So this completes in very brief, it completes the first chapter of the ethics paper. Now I will take up two because there is shortage of time. So I will take up two theories, ethical theories, just because four ethical theories I explained in last week. Now two I will explain this week, and then subsequently we will take up other theories. So now first let us go to deontology of Kant, because this is very important theory. Deontological theory uh, is basically derived from Greek word. Deon means duty, and deontology is basically duty-based ethical duty. So here core focus is duty-based ethics. Morality is determined by inherent rightness or wrongness of action based on adherence to duties and rules, irrespective of consequences. So here basically uh, means are very important. End is not important. So this is what we should understand. Here, your means have to be ethically correct. You have to do your duty, that's all, irrespective of what result comes. So this is what Immanuel Kant told, and this is what Gita also says. So last time also I told this is quite comparable theory with Bhagavad Gita. So that also you can quote. Now Kant has given some two concepts. One is basically categorical imperative is important as far as Kant is concerned. And what is categorical imperative? It means universal unconditional moral law that applies to all rational beings. So any universal law which applies equally to all rational beings is categorical imperative. So this is what, and Kant says that what can be universal law? That act only according to maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. So basically universality principle is first quality of categorical imperative. What is second quality? Humanity principle. Humanity principle means I mean act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in yourself or in others, always as an end. The human being has always to be treated as an end and not as a merely as a means. So this is humanity principle. So these two principles uh, formulate categorical imperative of Kant, universality principle and humanity principle. This we should remember, and we should quote also in different answers. If you have time, if you have number of words left, you can definitely go. Now, as I told, Indian variant of deontology is basically Swadharma, and mostly it comes from Bhagavad Gita. Now, relevance of UPSC to UPSC. Case studies, particularly, and otherwise also in theoretical questions also you can quote this deontological theory of Kant or Bhagavad Gita. It encourages principled decision making based on integrity, accountability, and respect for rights. Upholds civil service values, objectivity, transparency, and impartiality. Useful in administrative dilemmas. But then there are some negative points also, as we have seen in just two case studies just now in this session only we have seen. because 100% applying to application of deontology is not going to give you any solution. So, for example, it is rigid. Rigidity fails to account for moral dilemmas. So, where strict rule following may lead to unjust outcomes. So, as we have seen in two of the case studies. So, this is the rigid theory, and sometimes it is not giving correct solution. Then lack of contextual flexibility, same thing. Rigidity and contextual flexibility is one of these same thing in different words it has been written. So, in some situations, flexibility is required, and this theory is very, very rigid theory. Then conflict of duties, in case of conflict of duties also, this is not going to give you much better solution. So, for example, truth versus compassion. What will you follow? So both are equally important ethical values. So this again, this theory will not give you anything. Now, for example, as example, let us see here. A civil servant is pressured to manipulate data to show better performance. And these kind of situations do come in life of civil servant, career of civil servant. Now, what Kantian approach says, refuse to manipulate the data as it would involve dishonesty, violating the duty of truthfulness and treating public interest as mere means to political gain. Another situation, let us see, another example. A government officer is ordered to delay file clearance to favor politically connected party. Deontology definitely will say, no, don't do, and because this is not your duty. But these two examples are very simple examples. So we should not feel that this is example of case study. This is just to explain the deontology. These two examples are given. So now this completes deontology. Now let us go to another theory, justice-based theories. So there are some 2-3 theories which are justice-based theories. Very important because sometimes when deontology or consequential fails, then justice-based theories are also applied. Now, what is core focus of these justice-based theories? A justice word itself denotes fairness, equity, moral legitimacy in public life through just distribution, rectification of injustice, and institutional integrity. This is the core focus. And there are 3 subdivisions, or you can say 3 different kind of justice-based theories. Most important is John Rawls' theory, Rawlsian theory of justice. Now, John Rawls, he was 20th century very important philosopher. He has written the book, A Theory of Justice itself. Now, he has given 2 principles, veil of ignorance and difference principle. Veil of ignorance means you decide something uh, without being visible to somebody, or without basically being conscious to your social position of caste, class, gender, etc. And this veil of ignorance is important for ensuring impartiality and fairness. So this is Raoult's main principle, veil of ignorance. Now, difference principle is basically, he says that sometimes social and economic inequalities are required. They may be just, but when it will be just, only if they improve the condition of the least advantage. So here, difference principle means if there are inequalities, and if those inequalities are improving the condition of least advantage or poorest of the poor in the society, then they are justified. So this is these are 2 main principles of John Rawls, and this is what Rawlsian theory of justice is. Now, this again criticism is there because in a market-oriented economy, it overlooks meritocratic considerations, definitely, because it focuses on poorest of the poor and the underprivileged. So definitely, meritocratic considerations are neglected. Now, second kind of justice is corrective and distributive justice. Now, corrective justice is enforced by various courts and commissions. Now, courts, for example, compensations, legal remedies, etc. For example, compensation to manual scavenging, acid attacks, unlawful state action, all these are covered in corrective justice. If some wrong has happened, how to correct that. Distributive justice is basically equitable allocation of wealth, resources, and opportunities. Focus on need-based rather than market-based. This is in a way socialistic principle. We all know this is need-based rather than market-based. So this is distributive justice. Now, third is, or example, let us see example also. Reservation of SC, ST, OBC comes in this category. Then targeted welfare programs like PM Awas Yojana, midday meals, etc. come in this category. Now, third is Amartya Sen's capability approach. This is again a justice-based theory. Now, this Amartya Sen has given this theory. He has written a book, Development as a Freedom. Now, his core idea is justice is not merely about fair institutions, because John Rawls has emphasized on fair institutions, if you remember. Just now we have seen. So, justice, he says, Amartya Sen says, justice is not merely about fair institutions, but about real freedoms and capabilities individuals have in practice. So, basically, his theory is improve the capability of the individual or the society or the group, and then only justice will occur. So here key concepts are substantive freedoms like health, education, social participation, focus on expanding capabilities, not on just resource allocation. So these are key concepts for Amartya Sen, because this will strengthen the individual, this will strengthen the society. Now, it emphasizes human agency and the need to remove unfreedoms. And what are unfreedoms? Poverty, illiteracy, exclusion, discrimination. These are called unfreedoms by Amartya Sen. So this is what Amartya Sen's concept of justice, and its relevance to governments is very, very important. It guides ethical policy making in health, education, gender empowerment, etc. Support evaluation of public schemes or outcomes. Then illustrative case we can see to decide whether to continue a reservation-based educational scheme under budgetary constraints. Now, what is its evaluation? Now, Rawlsian justice is uphold it if the scheme benefits least advantage. Distributive justice is prioritize students of the marginalized groups. Sen's capability approaches evaluate whether the scheme enhances real opportunities, that is skill development, digital access, etc. So definitely justice-based theories go beyond legality or outcomes. They aim at ethical legitimacy, inclusiveness, and moral responsibility. And they make the whole administration fair, compassionate, and empowering. So this is again very, very important theory, and many times it needs to be applied. So these two theories I just want to cover. And now we'll come up with the questions uh, of this week, which we will be answering next week. So these are the two questions. What is meant by structure of attitude? Explain the ABC model with suitable examples relevant to public administration. Second question is discuss various functions that attitude serves for an individual with reference to Daniel Cart's functional theory. How are these functions relevant for civil servants? And then there are two case studies. One is regarding environmental problem, another is regarding criticism violating fundamental rights. So basically, you can read it. I'm not going to read that. Only thing I just want to say is, if anybody is interested that I should evaluate his answer or her answer, please send it in next. Before I give the answer, only I will be able to evaluate and return it back. So interested candidates or students may send their answer PDF for evaluation and further discussion on this email ID in next 4 or 5 days, because again next Sunday I will be giving the answer for this. So before that, only if you send, I will evaluate. After that, I'm not going to. Once I have already answered, I am not going to evaluate. So this is basically our class today. Now, if you want to say anything, otherwise I will close. Okay, then thank you everybody. Thank you for participating, and we'll meet again next week. Thank you.